Well, well, well. Today marks the 1 year anniversary of the coronavirus and the absolute shit show that's followed with it, as our civil liberties have been gradually eroded by a nonsensical Tory government who were insisting on following the science but have still, as yet, neglected to fucking do so. They've passed out a vaccine that's been barely tested, a vaccine that, if anything happens to you, any negative side effects or anything like that, your face turns purple, you get Bell's palsy, as was reported in a few places, you get blood clots. You have absolutely zero legal comeback. There is no financial sort of reprimand that can be issued to the vaccine companies because you've signed away that right by taking the virus, which is wonderful. So for a virus that kills 1% of the population, there's a vaccine that we may or may not, we don't know, but it may cause issues in 2% of the people that take it. So if you're perfectly healthy and you're not in a risk group, you've not got diabetes, you've not got asthma, you've not got anything up with you, and you take it, you are now increasing your risk to the tune of double what you had before. So not only that, but due to various lockdowns that have happened, everyone's essentially had their right to free movement just taken away from them. Free speech has been removed as well by big tech. Any criticism that you have of the vaccine or anything to do with the coronavirus, any telling of the actual facts about the misdescribed deaths being attributed to COVID, even though they were, say for example, someone that died on a motorcycle and died with COVID, they were put down as a COVID death because our nurses and doctors were incentivized financially to deal with more COVID patients. So I think I'm right in saying this, but the nurses on these various COVID wards were incentivized for every COVID case they dealt with, so they just started sticking people down that looked like they had symptoms as having COVID so that they earn more money. And then the other thing as well is they started making TikTok dances. So that was another thing that happened. So in the middle of a great pandemic, you've got a load of middle-aged nurses arsing about on wards, which is what our taxpayer money's paying for, which is a fucking disgrace. And then we've got the police getting in on the act as well, parking up in a fucking lay-by with the lights on, being knobheads. And then you've got their usual LGBT flags painted on the side of the bastard police car. So, yeah, the nonsense has continued, and everything that we've been allowed to do has now been gradually restricted. So we're essentially sat at homes watching these nurses knob about on wards, dancing to tunes as old people die in the next room. I mean, and it is old people. I think the average age of the people dying of the coronavirus is something like, I think it's like 82 years. 82 years, and the average life expectancy in the UK is 81 and a quarter. So it's essentially finishing people off that are past their expiry date on average. I'm not saying they should die, I'm just saying it was going to happen. It's getting to the point in your life where you're starting to wind down and you're expecting the Grim Reaper to come knocking on the front door. So yeah, we've essentially ground our economy to a halt, for which future generations will pay for the sake of saving a bunch of geriatrics with diabetes and fucking any other problem you can think of, or all for the sake of some fucking Chinese virus. And now we're still indoors now, and we're finding out that there might be a third variant that the government are panicking about, even though they've given out this glorious vaccine that everyone's supposed to have benefited from. It was supposed to save everyone. Everyone can go back to normal. Everybody can get back out there. How's it fuck? It's done absolutely fuck all for anyone. They don't even know if it works, supposedly, based on the government's own admissions. So they don't know if the fucking anti-vaccine, the vaccine works. Yet they're still, yet they had such faith in it before, and now they won't let people out. They won't let people go back to normal, even though everyone that's at risk by now should have been vaccinated with this suspect vaccine. Does make you wonder, doesn't it? It really does. Not only that, during all of this, we've had issues with the government awarding contracts for, I think there was some gent from America. I think he was paid, either America or Spain. He was paid millions for putting the government in touch with a Florida dentist who provided a load of PPE equipment So they paid a finder's fee of millions of taxpayer money to someone who put the government in touch with someone that might be able to provide them PPE. And I'm sure he wasn't a friend of our lovely government. So the levels of just hypocrisy, absolute, just incensed Karens going around yelling at anyone that doesn't wear a mask properly. I mean, this is the thing. They've managed to turn the death of old people into social credit. Oh, you don't care, you're killing grandma. It's like, well, grandma was on her way out anyway. She's seen her best days. She's fallen down the stairs 3 times since last Saturday. She's on her fucking way out. And then they released this propaganda. Look in this man's eyes. Let me find it actually, because it's fucking horrific. Look in this man's eyes and tell him that COVID isn't that bad. Look in this man's eyes. COVID. This horrendous blackmail that took place. Where are we? The bloke with the really blue eyes. Where are you? Look in this man's eyes. COVID. Where is it? It's absolutely horrendous. I mean, those are your eyes on COVID down the bottom right there. COVID propaganda. Where are we? I mean, it was a government campaign. Where are you? I can't find it now, but essentially it was an old man with bright blue eyes wearing a breathing mask, staring up into the camera of a photographer, and it said, "Tell this man that COVID isn't that bad." And it's like, well, demonstrably it's not. It's killing old people and people with pre-existing conditions. It's not the responsibility of every other member. But my responsibility to other people goes as far as not hurting them in any way in which I've intended to do something bad. But it stops at having to give a shit about old people that have pre-existing conditions. Like, I want to continue my life. My life shouldn't come at the cost of theirs when they're essentially on the way out the door anyway. So this is the state of the country, absolute state of the country. Our future generations are all going to have to pay this back. My children, my children's children are all going to be suffering because. And the thing is, we've seen what's happened in Sweden. Sweden didn't lock down at all. The same amount of, well, actually less people died, and the trends were exactly the same. If you look at the difference, if you match Sweden and the UK's charts, if I can find it, Sweden and UK COVID comparison, they actually peak and trough at exactly the same time, even though Sweden have actually done nothing. They've done nothing. They've barely done anything compared to what we have. Oh, they've got no graphs. That's wonderful. Thank you, News Medical. Right, where are we? Now we've got too many graphs. Okay. So the growth trajectory in Sweden is very similar to the UK despite the lack of lockdown. So it peaks at the same exact time, or there or thereabouts, and then declines away at the same time, over the same period of time, and they did not lock down. So what does that tell you? It tells you that it tells you that the government haven't been following the science, and the lockdowns have been absolutely pointless. We've destroyed the economic future of our children because a bunch of Karens were scared to go outside because they might get a particularly bad version of the flu. Get fucked. You just ruin your children's chances of purchasing houses unless you leave some generous wealth behind for them. So yeah, 1 year today. Fuck the coronavirus. Fuck the government. Fuck the Karens.